Have you ever wondered why some of the most powerful, confident individuals in history often preferred solitude over crowds? What if your greatest strength wasn't in how many people surrounded you but in how deeply you knew yourself? Today, we're uncovering a truth that can change your life. Welcome to Motivation for Success, the channel where we unlock the mindset for growth, purpose, and achievement. Society often tells us we need to be surrounded by people to feel important, validated, or complete. But what if that idea is wrong? Inspired by the profound insights of Denzel Washington, this video will explore the quiet, unshakable strength of a person who doesn't rely on external validation. If you've ever felt alone, misunderstood, or pressured to conform, this message is for you. Let's dive into the transformative power of solitude. Denzel Washington once said, "A man with no friends isn't lonely, he's found something deeper." These words challenge one of society's most ingrained beliefs, that solitude equates to loneliness. From childhood, we're conditioned to seek approval, build social circles, and equate connection with fulfillment. But what if the path to true confidence lies not in the crowd but in the quiet moments we spend with ourselves? Solitude isn't a void, it's an opportunity, a space to uncover a strength that many people never realize exists. Imagine a moment of stillness. No distractions, no one to impress, no noise to drown out your thoughts. For some, that image might bring peace, for others, it might feel uncomfortable. That discomfort often comes from a fear that solitude will force us to face parts of ourselves we'd rather ignore. But this is precisely why solitude is so powerful. It strips away all the masks we wear for the world and reveals who we really are. There's no audience in solitude, no applause to chase or expectations to meet. It's just you, as you are, standing face to face with your unfiltered self. This is where growth begins. Solitude isn't about withdrawing from the world, it's about investing in yourself. In those quiet moments, you discover that your worth isn't tied to the opinions or approval of others. You learn that your value comes from within, not from how many people surround you or how loudly they cheer for you. True confidence isn't built on applause, it's built on understanding and accepting who you are when no one else is looking. But here's the challenge, many people fear this process. They avoid solitude because it forces them to confront their insecurities, regrets, and doubts. When there's no one around to validate you, you're left with your own voice, and for some, that voice is their harshest critic. So, they fill their lives with distractions. They scroll through social media, binge-watch shows, or surround themselves with shallow connections, all in an attempt to escape the silence. But what they don't realize is that running from solitude is running from the very growth they need. Think about your own life. When was the last time you truly allowed yourself to be alone? Not just physically alone, but mentally and emotionally present with your thoughts. Did it bring you peace, or did it make you uneasy? Most people never pause to consider how much strength can be found in those moments of silence. It's in solitude that you face your fears, acknowledge your weaknesses, and embrace your strengths. This process isn't easy, it requires courage. But it's also incredibly rewarding because it leads to a kind of confidence that can't be shaken by external circumstances. Denzel Washington's words remind us that solitude isn't a burden, it's a gift. When you embrace it, you open the door to self-discovery. You begin to ask yourself important questions. Who am I when no one's watching? What do I truly value? What do I want my life to stand for? These are questions that can't be answered in the noise of everyday life. They require space, quiet, and honesty. And when you take the time to answer them, you start to see yourself in a new light, not as someone defined by the opinions of others, but as someone who knows their worth from within. This kind of self-reflection builds a foundation that no one can shake. When you know who you are, you stop seeking validation from the outside world. You don't need a crowd to tell you you're enough because you've already decided that for yourself. This is the kind of confidence that sets people apart. It's quiet but unshakable, humble but powerful. And it all starts with the courage to sit alone with yourself and listen to what your heart is trying to tell you. Some might ask, what's the point? Why not just enjoy the distractions, surround yourself with people, and keep moving forward? The answer lies in the depth of your life. Distractions and superficial connections might provide temporary comfort, but they don't lead to fulfillment. True fulfillment comes from living a life that's aligned with your values and purpose, a life that feels authentic, even in the quietest moments. Solitude gives you the clarity to create that life. It helps you separate what truly matters from what's just noise. Imagine the strength you could gain if you embraced solitude instead of fearing it. Picture yourself sitting in silence, reflecting on your goals and values, and emerging with a clearer sense of direction. This isn't about isolating yourself, it's about building a relationship with yourself that's so strong, no amount of external pressure can break it. When you cultivate this inner confidence, you become unshakable. The opinions of others lose their power over you, and you gain the freedom to live life on your terms. So, let me challenge you. Take a moment this week to sit in silence. Turn off your phone, step away from distractions, and spend time with your thoughts. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but stay with it. Listen to what your inner voice is telling you. Reflect on who you are and where you're going. Ask yourself, am I living in alignment with my values? Am I chasing external validation, or am I creating a life that's meaningful to me? The answers you find might surprise you. They might even inspire you to make changes that lead to a more authentic, fulfilling life. Remember, growth rarely happens in comfort zones. It's the moments of challenge, reflection, and solitude that shape us into the people we're meant to be. Denzel Washington's words hold a powerful truth: solitude isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. It's in those quiet moments that we discover the strength to face ourselves, the courage to grow, and the confidence to live authentically. So, don't run from the silence. Step into it. And when you do, you'll find a version of yourself that's stronger, wiser, and more grounded than you ever imagined. One of the greatest misconceptions of our time is the belief that being alone is a problem, a condition that must be fixed. Everywhere you look, people are chasing connections, seeking validation, approval, and a sense of belonging. But how often does this pursuit come at the expense of authenticity? How often do we trade our true selves for the illusion of connection? Denzel Washington provides a thought-provoking counterpoint to this narrative: solitude isn't something to fear, it's a sanctuary for clarity. Let's explore what that really means. In today's hyper-connected world, we're surrounded by noise, constant chatter, endless notifications, and the pressure to present a curated version of ourselves to the world. Amid this chaos, solitude offers something rare: the chance to strip away the noise and just be. In solitude, there are no distractions, no facades, no performances. It's a space where truth resides, where you can confront your fears, rediscover your strengths, and realign with your core values. Denzel's words capture this beautifully: in solitude, there are no masks, no performances. Just truth. Imagine what it feels like to embrace that kind of truth. Picture yourself sitting in complete silence, no phone buzzing, no expectations pulling you in different directions. The worries and stresses of daily life begin to fade, and in their place, you feel something deeper: a connection with your inner self. In those moments, you don't just hear your inner voice, you listen to it. You give it space to guide you, challenge you, and remind you of what truly matters. But let's not ignore the reality that many people find this idea unsettling. For some, the thought of being alone with their thoughts is intimidating. Why? Because solitude forces us to face ourselves. It shines a light on our insecurities, regrets, and fears, the parts of ourselves we often prefer to ignore. And yet, it is precisely this confrontation that makes solitude so powerful. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens when we dare to face the truths we've been avoiding. So, let me ask you this: what's stopping you from finding your sanctuary in solitude? Is it the fear of what you might discover about yourself? Or is it the fear of how others might perceive your choice to step back and be alone? Many of us fear solitude because we associate it with loneliness, but the two couldn't be more different. Loneliness is the absence of connection, while solitude is the presence of self-awareness. It's in solitude that you cultivate the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself. Think about the freedom that could come from embracing solitude. No longer driven by the need to impress others or fit into their expectations, you gain the clarity to live authentically. Solitude becomes a sanctuary where you can recharge, reflect, and reset. It's not about withdrawing from the world, it's about reconnecting with who you are at your core. And once you've done that, the way you show up in the world changes. You're no longer seeking validation because you've already found it within. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. How often do you allow yourself the gift of solitude? Do you give yourself permission to sit in silence, free from distractions, and simply be? If not, why? Perhaps it's time to challenge those fears and step into the quiet. What would happen if you embraced solitude as a tool for growth rather than something to avoid? Imagine the strength you could uncover, the insights you could gain, and the freedom you could feel. Solitude isn't a problem, it's a solution. It's where you find clarity, purpose, and a deeper understanding of who you are. And in a world that constantly tries to define you, that kind of self-awareness is the ultimate freedom. So, why not take that first step today? Turn off the noise, sit with your thoughts, and see what truths emerge. You might just discover that the sanctuary you've been seeking has been within you all along. Let's break down one of the biggest misconceptions in life, the idea that the more friends you have, the stronger or more successful you are. This couldn't be further from the truth. Denzel Washington puts it best when he says, "A secure man isn't lonely because he's alone, he's selective about who he allows into his life." This statement is more than just a quote, it's a blueprint for living authentically and building relationships that truly matter. Friendships, when they're rooted in authenticity, can be one of life's greatest gifts. They bring joy, support, and connection, helping us navigate the highs and lows of our journey. But here's the harsh reality, not all friendships are created equal. Too often, people surround themselves with others not because of genuine connection but out of fear, fear of being alone, fear of what others might think, or fear of seeming less valuable. These superficial relationships may fill a void temporarily, but they rarely lead to long-term fulfillment. True strength doesn't come from the number of people around you. It comes from knowing your worth and refusing to compromise on the quality of your connections. A secure person understands that their value isn't determined by the size of their social circle but by the depth and authenticity of their relationships. They're not interested in keeping up appearances or collecting acquaintances just to avoid solitude. Instead, they focus on building meaningful connections with people who align with their principles and values. Take a moment to reflect on your own relationships. Are they adding value to your life, or are they simply distractions? Are you holding on to certain connections out of obligation, habit, or fear of being alone? This kind of reflection can be uncomfortable, but it's necessary if you want to live authentically and protect your peace. A secure person knows that it's better to have a small circle of genuine friends than to be surrounded by people who don't truly understand or respect them. Here's the truth, letting go of toxic or superficial relationships isn't easy, but it's one of the most empowering decisions you can make. When you free yourself from connections that drain you, you create space for the relationships that truly enrich your life. You open the door for people who respect your boundaries, share your values, and inspire you to be your best self. These are the kinds of friendships that add depth and meaning to your life, far beyond the surface-level interactions that so many settle for. Think about it, how much energy do you spend maintaining relationships that don't serve you? How often do you feel drained after spending time with certain people? Now imagine redirecting that energy toward building connections that genuinely support your growth. Imagine surrounding yourself with people who celebrate your victories, stand by you in challenges, and encourage you to stay true to yourself. That's the power of meaningful relationships. So, what's the next step? It's time to take action. Start by evaluating your current relationships. Ask yourself, do these connections align with my principles? Do they bring me joy, peace, or inspiration? Or are they sources of stress, negativity, or unnecessary drama? Be honest with yourself. This isn't about judgment, it's about clarity. If you identify relationships that no longer serve you, give yourself permission to let them go. This doesn't have to be dramatic or confrontational. It can be as simple as creating some distance, setting boundaries, or allowing the connection to fade naturally. The goal isn't to cut people out of your life impulsively but to make intentional choices that prioritize your well-being and peace of mind. At the same time, be open to nurturing the relationships that matter most. Reach out to the people who uplift you, challenge you, and make you feel seen and understood. Invest time and energy into those connections, knowing that their value far outweighs the quantity of your social circle. Denzel Washington's wisdom reminds us that true strength isn't about how many friends you have, it's about the quality of the friendships you keep. It's about choosing relationships that align with your values, protect your peace, and inspire your growth. By being selective about who you allow into your life, you reclaim your time, energy, and authenticity. So, take a moment today to reflect on your connections. Are they helping you become the person you aspire to be? Are they aligned with your principles and goals? If not, it's time to make changes that create space for the relationships that truly matter. Remember, it's not the size of your circle that defines you, it's the strength of the bonds within it. Choose wisely, and watch how your life transforms. One of the most profound yet daunting challenges in life is to truly look at yourself, unfiltered, unmasked, and without excuses. Denzel Washington perfectly captures this truth when he says, "A man who faces his reflection without flinching builds a foundation of unshakable strength." These words aren't just a call to self-awareness, they're a roadmap to personal growth and authenticity. Why is this act so powerful? Because the mirror doesn't lie. It reveals everything: your fears, your insecurities, your strengths, and your potential. When you stand in front of it, there's no hiding. It strips away the layers of performance we so often show the world. It's just you and the truth staring back. And while this kind of self-confrontation can be uncomfortable, it's also the key to real clarity and growth. Think about it: how often do you avoid looking too closely at yourself? Not just a glance in the mirror to check your appearance, but a deep, honest assessment of who you are and where you're headed. For many, this avoidance is a defense mechanism. It's easier to focus on the flaws of others or distract yourself with external pursuits than to acknowledge the areas in your own life that need attention. But here's the thing: avoiding self-reflection doesn't make the problems go away. It only delays your growth. The mirror is more than just a reflection of your physical self. It's a reflection of your soul. When you look into it, you see not only who you are today but also who you have the potential to become. However, this transformation starts with courage, the courage to confront your fears, accept your flaws, and take responsibility for your life. Growth doesn't come from blaming others or running from the truth. It comes from owning your journey and committing to the work it takes to improve. So, why do so many of us fear this process? It's because self-reflection can feel like shining a light on our vulnerabilities. It forces us to acknowledge the parts of ourselves we'd rather keep hidden, the regrets, the mistakes, the weaknesses. But here's the beauty of it: those very vulnerabilities are where your strength is born. When you face them head-on, you take away their power over you. Instead of being defined by your flaws, you start to define yourself by your ability to overcome them. Imagine standing before the mirror today, not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself. What would you see? Would you see someone holding on to past mistakes, or someone ready to let them go? Would you see fear holding you back, or the courage waiting to break free? The answers to these questions aren't meant to discourage you, they're meant to inspire you to take action. Denzel Washington's message is clear: growth begins the moment you stop running from yourself. When you face your reflection, you gain clarity about where you are in life and where you want to go. This clarity allows you to make intentional choices, align your actions with your values, and build a life that feels true to who you are. Without this step, you risk living on autopilot, letting old patterns and unexamined fears dictate your path. Let's be honest, self-reflection isn't easy. It requires humility to admit where you've fallen short and courage to envision a better version of yourself. But it's also incredibly liberating. When you take responsibility for your life, you reclaim your power. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start becoming the architect of your future. Today, I encourage you to take this step. Stand before the mirror, not just physically, but metaphorically, and ask yourself the hard questions. What do I see? What am I proud of? What do I need to change? And most importantly, what steps can I take to become the person I aspire to be? This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. It's about recognizing that you have the ability to grow, evolve, and become stronger every single day. The mirror isn't your enemy, it's your guide. It reflects not just your current reality but also your untapped potential. So, what would happen if you stopped avoiding the mirror and started embracing it? What if, instead of fearing what you might see, you approached it with curiosity and determination? The truth is, the person staring back at you has everything they need to succeed. All it takes is the courage to look, the honesty to assess, and the discipline to act. In the end, confronting the mirror isn't just about self-reflection, it's about self-respect. It's a declaration that you are willing to face whatever challenges come your way, including the ones within yourself. It's a commitment to growth, to authenticity, and to living a life that aligns with your highest potential. So, take that first step today. Stand before the mirror, face yourself with courage, and let the journey of transformation begin. What you'll discover isn't just who you are, it's who you're capable of becoming. And that, my friend, is a vision worth pursuing. Living authentically is one of the most liberating yet demanding experiences life has to offer. It requires more than just knowing who you are, it demands the courage to stand by your principles, even when the world around you disagrees. Denzel Washington encapsulates this truth beautifully: a man's worth is defined by the principles he stands by, not by how many people approve of him. These words challenge the idea that external validation is the measure of success and instead point to a deeper, more fulfilling way of living, a life rooted in integrity. Think about the world we live in. Everywhere you turn, there's pressure to conform, to blend in, follow the crowd, and seek approval from others. Social media amplifies this, encouraging people to present curated versions of themselves, often at the expense of authenticity. But here's the hard truth: when you constantly chase the approval of others, you lose sight of your own values. You become a reflection of what others want, rather than a reflection of who you truly are. Walking your own path means rejecting this pressure to conform. It means listening to your inner voice and making decisions that align with your values, even when they're not popular. It means having the strength to say, "This is who I am, and this is what I stand for," without needing applause or agreement from others. But this isn't always easy. Staying true to yourself often means standing alone, and that can feel isolating. Ask yourself this: what values guide your life? Are you living in alignment with them, or are you compromising to fit in? It's easy to say you value honesty, compassion, or courage, but are your actions reflecting those ideals? If not, why? Is it fear of rejection? The desire to avoid conflict? Or simply the comfort of going along with the crowd? Whatever the reason, it's worth examining, because living out of alignment with your values leads to a life that feels hollow and unfulfilled. Imagine for a moment what it would feel like to live completely authentically. Picture yourself making choices based on what you know to be right, not on what's easiest or most acceptable. Envision the confidence that comes from knowing you're living a life that reflects your deepest beliefs. That's the power of integrity. It gives you a sense of peace and purpose that no amount of external validation can provide. Integrity doesn't mean being rigid or unwilling to grow. It means being anchored. It's about having a clear sense of who you are and using that clarity to guide your decisions. When you walk your own path with integrity, you become unshakable. The opinions of others no longer control you because your worth isn't tied to their approval. But how do you ensure you're walking this path? Start by identifying your core values. Take a moment to reflect on what truly matters to you. Is it honesty? Compassion? Courage? Ambition? Write these values down, and then ask yourself, are my daily choices aligned with these principles? If they're not, it's time to realign. Realigning with your values doesn't require drastic changes overnight. It's about making intentional, consistent decisions that reflect who you want to be. Maybe it means setting boundaries in a relationship that no longer serves you. Maybe it's about speaking up for what you believe in, even when it's uncomfortable. Or maybe it's as simple as prioritizing actions that bring you closer to your goals and letting go of distractions that pull you away. Denzel Washington's wisdom reminds us that the worth of a person isn't measured by how many people approve of them but by the strength of their character. True fulfillment doesn't come from fitting into someone else's mold, it comes from breaking free and walking a path that's uniquely yours. When you live with integrity, you might not always be understood, and that's okay. Authenticity isn't about being liked by everyone, it's about being at peace with yourself. As you move forward, challenge yourself to live in alignment with your values. Take small, intentional steps each day to close the gap between who you are and who you want to be. Embrace the courage it takes to stand by your principles, even when the world around you pressures you to compromise. And remember, the path of integrity might not always be easy, but it's always worth it. Your life is your own, and your values are your compass. Follow them boldly, and you'll find a sense of purpose and fulfillment that no one can take away. Write down your core values today, reflect on your choices, and take the first step toward living authentically. The path may be challenging, but it's the only one that leads to true freedom. Many people mistakenly view solitude as a sign of lack, a lack of friends, joy, or fulfillment. It's often misunderstood, painted as a condition to be avoided or fixed. But Denzel Washington offers a transformative perspective: solitude isn't emptiness, it's richness. These words turn the narrative upside down, presenting solitude as a profound gift rather than a deficit. In a world that glorifies constant connection and busyness, solitude emerges as an underrated yet vital source of strength. Imagine for a moment what it means to embrace solitude. It's not about isolating yourself or shutting out the world. It's about creating space to breathe, think, and listen to your inner voice. When you remove the external noise, the opinions, distractions, and expectations, you uncover something extraordinary: clarity. In solitude, you discover who you truly are, unshaped by the influence of others. You're no longer defined by what people expect of you or how they perceive you. Instead, you define yourself. This strength is often misunderstood because it doesn't fit society's narrative. We're taught to equate busyness with productivity and connection with worth. The idea of choosing solitude can seem foreign, even uncomfortable. But here's the truth: solitude isn't loneliness. Loneliness is the absence of connection, but solitude is the presence of self-awareness. It's not about what's missing, it's about what you find when you're alone. And what you find can change your life. Think about the times when you felt truly at peace. Were those moments surrounded by noise and chaos, or were they in the quiet, reflective pauses of life? Solitude gives you the opportunity to recharge, to reconnect with yourself on a deeper level. It's in those moments that you can process your thoughts, evaluate your goals, and reignite your passions. Solitude becomes a sanctuary, a place where you can align with your values and gain the clarity needed to face life's challenges. But let's acknowledge the elephant in the room: many people fear solitude. Why? Because being alone means confronting yourself. It means facing your thoughts, your insecurities, and your dreams head-on. That kind of self-confrontation can be uncomfortable, even daunting. It's easier to fill the void with distractions, social media, endless tasks, or superficial interactions, than to sit in silence and reflect. Yet avoiding solitude doesn't solve the discomfort, it merely postpones the growth that comes from it. What if you could shift your mindset and see solitude not as something to fear, but as something to embrace? What if those quiet moments weren't empty at all, but full of potential? Picture yourself sitting alone, free from the demands of the outside world. Instead of feeling isolated, you feel grounded. Instead of feeling disconnected, you feel deeply in tune with yourself. This is the richness that Denzel speaks of, the richness of knowing yourself and finding peace in your own company. The strength of solitude is often underestimated because it doesn't seek validation. It doesn't announce itself or demand recognition. It's quiet, steady, and deeply personal. But make no mistake, it's powerful. Solitude builds resilience because it teaches you to rely on yourself. It fosters independence because it shows you that your worth isn't tied to anyone else. And it nurtures creativity because it gives your mind the freedom to wander, explore, and dream without constraints. Let's challenge the narrative that solitude is a sign of lack. Instead, let's see it for what it truly is, an opportunity to grow, to reflect, and to recharge. The next time you find yourself alone, resist the urge to fill the space with distractions. Instead, embrace it. Use that time to think about where you are in life and where you want to go. Reflect on your values, your goals, and the person you're becoming. Let solitude be a mirror, showing you the areas where you can grow and the strengths you already possess. This isn't about withdrawing from the world, it's about strengthening your connection with yourself so that you can engage with the world more authentically. When you learn to find richness in solitude, you carry that strength with you into every interaction and decision. You become less swayed by external opinions and more rooted in your own sense of purpose. And that, as Denzel reminds us, is a strength that will carry you through life's toughest challenges. So, here's a challenge for you: the next time you're alone, don't see it as a void to fill. See it as an opportunity. Take a few moments to sit in silence, free from distractions. Reflect on what's working in your life and what isn't. Recharge your energy and reconnect with your inner self. You might be surprised by what you discover. Because solitude, far from being empty, is one of the richest experiences you can give yourself. And the strength you build in those moments will not only transform your relationship with yourself but also your relationship with the world. Denzel Washington once said, "A man's worth isn't in the applause but in the strength of his character." These words strike at the heart of what it means to live a meaningful life. In a society where success is often measured by fame, followers, or wealth, Denzel reminds us that true success isn't about how many people know your name or celebrate your achievements. Instead, it's about the legacy you leave behind, the principles you lived by, the integrity you upheld, and the impact you had on others. Let's take a moment to unpack this idea. Legacy isn't about fleeting recognition, it's about enduring significance. It's not about how loudly people clap for you in the moment but about the quiet strength you demonstrate through your actions over time. Your legacy is the sum of the values you stand for, the relationships you nurture, and the ways in which you inspire and uplift others. It's about what remains long after the applause fades. Now, think about your own life. What do you want to be remembered for? When people speak your name, what do you hope they'll say? Are your current choices and actions aligning with that vision? These are not easy questions to answer, but they are among the most important ones you'll ever ask yourself. Defining your legacy requires clarity, intention, and the courage to live in alignment with your values every single day. Legacy is built on character, and character is forged in the small, often unseen moments of life. It's in the decisions you make when no one is watching, the promises you keep even when it's inconvenient, and the way you treat others, especially when there's nothing to gain. These moments define who you are and, ultimately, how you'll be remembered. But building a legacy isn't just about personal integrity, it's also about the impact you have on others. The greatest legacies are not built in isolation, they're built through connection. How do you show up for the people in your life? Are you a source of encouragement, inspiration, and support? Are you leaving the world a little better than you found it? These questions can guide you as you work toward creating a legacy that truly matters. Denzel's words remind us that applause is fleeting. The cheers of a crowd may feel good in the moment, but they don't define your worth. What matters is the lasting impression you leave, the lives you touch, the values you uphold, and the contributions you make to your community. This perspective is liberating because it shifts the focus from seeking external validation to cultivating internal fulfillment. Imagine looking back on your life many years from now. What do you want to see? Will you be proud of the person you became and the impact you had? If the answer isn't clear, now is the time to make a change. Legacy isn't something you leave behind by accident, it's something you build intentionally, brick by brick, through your daily choices. Here's an actionable step to help you start defining your legacy today. Write down 3 things you want to be remembered for. Maybe it's your kindness, your resilience, or your ability to inspire others. Perhaps it's the way you stood by your principles, even when it was difficult. Whatever it is, put it into words. Seeing it on paper makes it real and gives you a clear goal to strive for. Once you've identified these 3 core aspects of your legacy, take a close look at your daily actions. Are they moving you closer to the person you want to be? If not, it's time to realign. Living in alignment with your values doesn't mean being perfect, it means being intentional. It means making decisions that reflect who you are and who you aspire to become, even in the face of challenges. For example, if you want to be remembered for your kindness, how are you showing kindness today? If integrity is part of your legacy, are you standing firm in your principles, even when it's inconvenient? If you want to inspire others, are you sharing your journey and encouraging those around you? These small, consistent actions add up over time, shaping the legacy you'll leave behind. Building a legacy also requires patience. It's not about grand gestures or instant recognition, it's about the quiet, steady work of living authentically. It's about focusing on what truly matters, your values, your relationships, and your impact, rather than getting caught up in the noise of temporary achievements. When you commit to this process, you create something far more meaningful than fame or fortune. You create a life of purpose and significance. So, what's your next step? Take the time today to reflect on your legacy. Write down those 3 key things you want to be remembered for, and then make a plan to live those values every day. Keep this list where you can see it, a reminder of what you're working toward and why it matters. As you move forward, remember Denzel Washington's wisdom: success isn't about applause or recognition. It's about the strength of your character and the impact you have on others. Focus on these, and you'll build a legacy that not only lasts but also inspires those who come after you. The truth is, we all leave a legacy. The question is, what kind of legacy will yours be? Let today be the day you start building one that reflects the best of who you are and the values you hold dear. The journey begins now, with every choice you make and every step you take. Make them count. Now it's your turn. Are you ready to embrace the power of solitude and discover the strength within you? Share your journey in the comments below. What fears have you faced, and what insights have you gained? Let's inspire each other to grow and thrive. Thank you for joining us today at Motivation for Success. Remember, true strength doesn't come from the crowd, it comes from the person you are when you stand alone. If this video resonated with you, don't leave without hitting the subscribe button, liking the video, and sharing it with someone who could use a little inspiration today. Together, let's build a community of self-discovery and empowerment. See you in the next video.